As she was speaking, we just got word that Lindsey Graham had his meeting with the vice president-elect as well as Matt Gaetz. And coming out of that meeting, he says he will be held to account in the confirmation process. He deserves a chance to make his argument on why he should be attorney general. He called Matt Gaetz a very, very smart guy, said these allegations will be dealt with in committee. Susan, what's your read on Vance and Gaetz pitching these senators before this ethics report gets out?
I think they're both of them are out there saying Donald Trump expects you to support Matt Gaetz for AG, and he will have the wrath of God come down on your head if you go against him on this. You will be done. I mean, I don't think they'll be as threatening, but the threat will certainly be there because there's no other reason frankly, for them to meet. You can't talk about Gaetz's qualifications. They can't answer questions because he's already denied those charges against him when it comes to the women who are underage, who he may or may not have paid or may have known, or apparently did not know that they were underage when he slept with them. But this is all a character issue. There's nothing they can do on the Hill right now except probably get into more trouble. As Ali mentioned, 2 months is an awful lot of time. And these committee hearings, first it'll be the committee hearings, then it will be up to the full Senate to hear from the nominees. And I think that's going to be very grueling and very embarrassing for senators to have to vote on if they want to vote in the affirmative. And that's why Donald Trump asked for the recess appointments.
So Gaetz is there pitching himself right now with these senators, Basil. What types of tough questions should he be asked?
Well, well, did you do it, right? Did you know, what did you know and when did you know it? Like those kinds of questions. But I think, look, what I really want to highlight, though, is that it really only takes one courageous Republican on the House side right now to vote to release this report. And to Susan's point, once it's out there, whether it's given directly to the Senate or it's released publicly, it will be in the hands of people that are going to have to hold him accountable. So it's not just about Matt Gaetz being asked questions. It's all of the people who have read the report, particularly on the Senate side, that are going to say, well, that are going to have to answer what was in that report. Do you agree with some of the findings, and how is that going to impact your ability to ask this nominee questions? Are you going to overlook what's in that report to ask certain questions? Right? So there's more than Matt Gaetz at stake here right now in terms of accountability. So again, this House committee, it's equally divided between Democrats and Republicans. So it really and Democrats have said they want this released. So it really only takes one Republican. So that's why I'm curious about the sort of pressure being put on individuals at both sides of the Capitol right now.
Well, if Gaetz' confirmation or others appear in jeopardy, there's still the recess appointment angle, which Donald Trump has floated out there. And I want you to listen to incoming Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller. Here he was on Fox last night.
If there are some cabinet appointments that become troublesome, will the president use the recess appointment process?
Yes. The president has won a mandate, and he will use all lawful constitutional means to fulfill that mandate on behalf of the people who voted for him.
It appears at least some Republican senators oppose this play. Here's Lisa Murkowski.
This is our job. This is the role of advice and consent, and I think we need to embrace advice and consent with full enthusiasm. We are a separate but equal branch, so let's not cede any of our constitutional authorities. Let's take it seriously.
I just wonder, Susan, what's the upside for Trump nominating somebody like Gaetz when he could just go the regular route, not open up Pandora's box with somebody who has less baggage?
That's a great question. He really should, frankly, actually, I don't think you'll ever see Donald Trump back down from his appointments. What the pressure will be is for Matt Gaetz to say, I withdraw my name. Watch out for that phrase a couple of times. I think you may hear it maybe 2 or 3 times of some of the names we've had put forward, especially once the investigation of these individuals, like every cabinet nominee has gone through. It's your personal records. It's your family's records. It's your finance records. It's your donation records. This is a very in-depth background check that people go through, and the committee members will have that information. So I suspect as things fall out, that you're going to see a couple of people maybe not being able to handle it. But when we talk about that recess appointment, first of all, it takes the Senate to vote for the recess appointment. So you need to still get the majority of senators to do it. Unless, and I think this is what Stephen Miller was talking about, was the president declares the House and the Senate in recess. I don't think that it's never been done. I don't think he could get away with it.
And a lot that's never been done.
Yeah, thankfully he said lawful. So let's see what happens.
The Washington Post did kind of lay out how Trump's transition apparatus has operated in a rogue way, bypassing standards and practices his predecessors have used, one ally calling it a hostile takeover on behalf of the American people. Basil, is this what American voters wanted?
Well, they wanted a political disruptor, and they certainly got that. Now, my concerns about Donald Trump are well noted. But what he's looking at is the fact that essentially he's built a lot of his base on a repudiation of a lot of the political movements over the last decade, whether it's Me Too, it's Black Lives Matter, DEI. It's a kind of repudiation and backlash against that. So in some respects, a lot of these appointments are his message to the American people and certainly to his base that I'm willing to go against the grain and I'm willing to make appointments to these positions of people that I like. He's actually appointing a lot of celebrities, which we know he likes, because fame and fortune are his currency. And so, you know,
and a lot of American voters, though, I think wanted, you know, a better economy and somebody to deal with immigration issues. And that's what we heard from those voters.
That's what we heard, but how we got there was also was part of that permission structure was a repudiation of a lot of other stuff. And I think what he's saying is, you know, I'm not going to fall to the political pressure on the left. I'm going to do what I want. And that, you know, that's why in many ways he wants to push through the
But there are people who could disrupt the system and tear it apart who are qualified to at least manage these organizations. Like, you at least want qualified people who have a management background, forget their policy, who can at least go into these places and make sure the Social Security checks get mailed out every month. Just something like that.
Well, guys, gotta leave it there. There'll be more appointments, and we're going to talk about other picks as we go this hour as well. Basil